There's a moment that happens when someone gets close to you, when they start showing up consistently, when their attention becomes something you can rely on, and instead of feeling warm or relieved, you feel something tighten in your chest. It's not fear exactly, and it's not that you don't like them. It's more like a low-level urge to step back, to create a little more air between you, to return to a distance that feels more manageable. You notice it most when things are going well, when there's no conflict, no reason to pull away, and yet you find yourself thinking about needing space, about how you function better alone, about how this level of closeness feels like something you have to hold up instead of something that holds you. You might not even recognize it as discomfort at first, because it doesn't announce itself the way anxiety does. It's quieter than that. It shows up as distraction, as suddenly noticing small irritations that weren't there before, as a vague sense that the person is asking for something even when they're not asking for anything at all. And the confusion comes from the fact that you genuinely care about them. You're not trying to hurt anyone. You're not looking for a way out. But something in you treats their presence like a weight you have to carry, and the closer they get, the heavier it feels. What you tell yourself is that you just need space, that you're someone who values independence, that maybe they're moving too fast or expecting too much. These explanations feel true enough to repeat to yourself, and they're easy to defend because they sound reasonable. Everyone needs space sometimes. Everyone has limits. But if you pay attention, you'll notice that the amount of closeness that feels like too much keeps shifting. What felt fine last week now feels invasive. What you wanted a month ago now feels like pressure. And the person hasn't changed. They're doing exactly what they were doing when you felt drawn to them. But now, their consistency feels like something you have to manage instead of something that comforts you. The real confusion comes from the fact that you wanted this. You wanted someone who would stay, who wouldn't leave you guessing, who would show up without you having to ask. And now that you have it, it doesn't feel the way you thought it would. It feels like exposure, like being watched too closely, like someone is waiting for you to be something you're not sure you know how to be. And the urge to pull back isn't about them. It's about what happens inside you when someone stays long enough to see past the version of yourself you're used to managing. This is where most people stop looking, because the explanations you've built feel sufficient. You tell yourself it's about compatibility or timing or your natural temperament. But if that were true, the discomfort wouldn't show up so predictably. It wouldn't arrive right when things stabilize, right when the other person stops being a mystery and starts being a presence. And it wouldn't feel like relief when you create distance, like you've returned to a version of yourself that you know how to inhabit. Because that's what happens when you pull back. The tightness eases. The mental noise quiets. You stop feeling like you're performing or holding something up, and you return to a baseline that feels neutral, manageable, familiar. And this is the part that's hard to admit, because it means that the discomfort isn't about the other person being too much. It's about what their closeness removes from you. It removes the ability to stay emotionally silent. It removes the distance you use to regulate how much you feel. It removes the control you have when no one is paying close enough attention to notice what you're actually carrying. Being loved, actually loved, means being seen in a way that doesn't let you hide. And hiding isn't something you think of yourself as doing because you're not lying, you're not pretending to be someone else. But there's a version of yourself you've learned to live inside that only works when you're managing it alone, when no one is close enough to ask questions you don't have answers to, when the stakes of being known stay low enough that you can stay in motion without ever sitting still with what you actually feel. And when someone loves you, when they're calm and steady and not going anywhere, that version stops working. You can't stay in constant low-level motion when someone is sitting across from you waiting for nothing, just being there. You can't deflect or redirect when their attention doesn't waver. You can't stay numb when someone is treating you like you matter, because mattering means your feelings become something you have to account for, something you have to let exist instead of something you can keep at arm's length. This is what closeness does that distance protects you from. It asks you to feel things in real time instead of processing them later, alone, in a way you can control. It asks you to let someone's care land instead of bouncing off the surface. It asks you to stay present with your own needs instead of only noticing them when you're by yourself. And the reason this feels uncomfortable isn't because you're incapable of it. It's because you've built an entire way of functioning around not having to do it. Distance gives you room to breathe, but what it's really giving you is room to avoid. It lets you stay in your head instead of your body. It lets you care about people without having to let them care about you in a way that changes anything. It lets you stay emotionally self-sufficient, which sounds like strength, but what it actually means is that you've made it so that no one's presence or absence affects you too much, and that includes the presence of someone who wants to stay. And the cost of this, the thing you only notice when you look at it directly, is that you've made it so that being chosen feels like a burden. You've made it so that someone showing up for you consistently feels like something you have to manage instead of something that softens the weight you carry. You've made it so that intimacy, real intimacy, feels like a threat to the version of yourself you know how to be. And so you keep people at the exact distance where you can care about them without ever having to let them all the way in. This doesn't make you broken, and it doesn't mean you're incapable of connection. But it does mean that the thing you're avoiding isn't the other person. It's not their intensity, or their expectations, or their need for closeness. What you're avoiding is what happens inside you when someone loves you enough to notice that you're not letting them. You're avoiding the feeling of being seen in a way that doesn't let you stay emotionally neutral. You're avoiding the weight of your own needs becoming visible, becoming something you have to admit exist, becoming something you might actually let someone help you carry. And until you notice this, really notice it, every relationship will feel the same. It will start with hope, with the belief that this time will be different. And then it will hit the same point where closeness starts to feel like pressure, where their presence starts to feel like something you have to hold up, where the easiest thing to do is pull back and tell yourself it just wasn't right. But it's not about right or wrong. It's about the fact that you've made it so that being loved activates something in you that you don't know how to sit with. And so you treat it like a problem to solve by creating space. When what's really happening is that you're protecting yourself from having to feel something you've spent a long time learning not to feel. This is the pattern. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. You'll notice it the next time someone gets close. You'll notice the moment the tightness starts. You'll notice the explanations you reach for, the ways you make it about them when it's really about what their closeness is asking you to do. And you'll have to decide whether you're willing to stay in that discomfort long enough to see what's on the other side of it, or whether you're going to keep choosing the relief that comes from distance, the relief that feels like safety, but is really just the absence of feeling anything too deeply. Because that's what this is really about. Not whether you're capable of love, but whether you're willing to let yourself be loved in a way that doesn't let you stay hidden. And that's not something anyone can decide for you.